to the RoundTable. My name is Shell Johnson and I am here with some amazing people, and today we're talking on the topic of mental health, aren't we, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. How is everybody today? Are we good? Are we feeling good?
Yeah, feeling good.
Yeah. I think so, yeah.
Think so.
Never quite sure.
It's one of those topics where you're like, it's quite serious, but you don't want to be too deep into it. So you're just like, I just want to stay afloat.
How okay do you want me to be?
How about let's take it another level. How are you, Julian?
I'm here. I think that's what I'm going to say. Only because, I think later on we'll get into it, but I'm tired, but I'm here.
I guess in the past sort of 6 months, I've fallen in love with the process and just where I'm at in life in general. Yeah.
I'm someone who suffered from mental health issues since I was about 14, 15. I may not have gone into details, but even being able to say that to people, because of the kind of character I am, it was quite surprising.
I'm mental health-wise, I've been healthy, I would say, growing up, in general, always been positive in a lot of ways and not particularly had anxiety or depression, but over the past 5 years, for 3 of the winters, I've had about a month of what I would describe as it was undiagnosed depression, I would say. So seasonal affective disorder is a word the doctors used, as it wasn't diagnosed, but it's something I might potentially have had. So that was bizarre for me, I guess, as someone that's always my mind's been healthy, to suddenly not be in control in that way anymore and have that, the emotional side of me not lining up and making sense with what life looked like. I think that threw me a bit.
I had anorexia when I was kind of 12 to 17 and then ended up spending a year in a mental health hospital recovering. And I know my brain unbelievably well, but, and even so much so that when I relapsed, I knew exactly what was happening a couple of years ago, kind of reached out for help and went and kind of tried to deal with it properly, kind of head on. But over the last 6 months, stuff has started to slide, so much so that I woke up this morning, I was actually away, came back to London and sat at Highbury and Islington Tube Station for 45 minutes crying, not knowing whether I wanted to even come today, what I wanted to do with myself. And I think for me, that's just such a frustration, because it's I've been in this really good place. And I think part of it is now for me is I talk very openly about my recovery, and I do this full time. I talk about mental health, and it's people have this expectation, I think, that when you've had a mental health problem and you talk about it, everything's okay.
It's the aftercare that's kind of almost more important in some ways, because it's now I've gotten through that. But now then, what do I do?
Yeah.
I think it's significant that both you, Kat, and Celestine, I think, talked about this idea that it's in some sense empowering to face it head on, to acknowledge it, to say it's there. You're not going to go away, but nor am I. I'm facing you, and now we can manage and deal with problems as they come up.
I agree with you completely, but I also think, and people can disagree with me, that there is, for instance, my own personal experience kind of growing up, I had my self-worth was so low, and I hated everything about myself, so I kind of almost tricked myself into thinking that I was good enough, and then I kind of almost fake it till you make it, and then eventually I did start to think that and actually convince myself that I was good enough. So I think there's facing the beast, but there's also kind of being no, you are worth it, even when you don't actually think you are.
Do we accept a label over ourselves, or how do we healthily engage in these topics and who we are and who it makes us, I guess?
Often we run away from that idea of just sitting with yourself and just interrogate yourself. Why are you telling yourself you're not good enough today, Julie? Why are you telling, do you get just why are you doing that? And I do that every day. And I think that's really helpful for me. So when people ask me, how are you, depending on the space I'm in, it's I'm present, if I am present. Because some days I'm not present, I'm just there, and I'm not even there, I'm just talking to myself, and everyone's talking, and they'll be like, Julian, what do you think? Because I'm not there, because mentally I'm probably tired, and I don't want to engage, and sometimes I don't even want to talk to people. But
Can I ask that when you have those days when you don't want to talk to people, do you find that you just shut yourself off and that you just kind of disconnect with, shall I say, humanity and the world, and do you find that helps you, or do you tend to then force yourself to actually want to engage with people at that time? How do you deal with that?
It depends on the day.
Okay.
So for example, 3 days ago. I was at home, went home tired, and then the kids, because my daughter is she's just amazing, just full of energy, just run towards me. It's like, yeah, great. And I realized I'm not reaching back with the same energy, and I felt really bad. Because I remember wanting that attention from my dad and I wasn't getting it. So I just gave her a hug for time, and then she was like, Daddy. Why are you holding me?
Can I breathe now?
Yeah.
It's gone on a bit too long.
Yeah.
I always say, like, I run for my head and my arse just comes along for the ride. Like, do you know what I mean? Because so many people are like, oh my God, you do loads of running, and have you lost any weight? I was like, I really couldn't care less about the weight I'm losing. Honestly, I literally just need to run. But I think it's about realizing that I have to take responsibility for my own mental health. And I can sit there and go, but why did I get postnatal depression? Or why did I get depressed? Like, why is that? And I know that there are things that happen that probably triggered it, that probably contributed to it, but there are other people I know who've been through stuff that don't suffer from it. So I'm like, but why me? And you can ask that question till you're blue in the face.
Like last year, I was in the worst place of my life, to the point that I was on suicide watch. I wasn't allowed to be left at home by myself. I had my sister and my best friend had to come and take out anything that they thought was a danger to me. So all tablets, all solvents, or whatever, because I was in a place, and when they kept trying to ask me why, I could not answer. And I think it wasn't until last year that I realized that it's actually okay to not know the reason why you're feeling the way you're feeling. I couldn't answer, and I could not say to them, this is the problem and this is the issue that I'm having. I just needed to be left alone. But the truth was, I couldn't be left alone because I was actually a danger to myself. And it was a horrible place to be in. And it wasn't until I started therapy that I've started to slowly get myself, and I mean slowly, I mean like a tortoise? Tortoise? Is that how you pronounce it? Yeah, like that kind of crawl out of that place. But people will look at me and they will assume that everything is okay. Oh, Celestina, you're on TV. Or Celestina, you're singing with this person. Or Celestina, you're doing that. But outside of that, I'm suffering inwardly and I'm trying to find an avenue for it. But sometimes I just want to shut away.
Into any parents around the table, like talking about not letting people down?
I feel like we underestimate how much kids understand emotionally. And like, she would notice that I'm different and she'd try and get that out of me, and then I would just give her the hug, and then But I think also this idea of like letting people down is something that I've kind of accepted, that I am going to let people down. Like this expectation of whoever or whatever like I've portrayed to people, like that is not me. Like I could be this today and tomorrow I'll be that. Like, and I always say this to people. I could, say whatever I'm saying this today, like tomorrow I can completely be like the opposite, and that should be fine to you. Like, and if you're someone that cares about me, you should understand that as a human being, we grow, and I see our mental well-being as a sort of a muscle.
I've been really clear about saying to the kids sometimes, you know what, I'm not having a great day. Sure. Like,
how old are your kids?
5 and nearly 3, the same as yours. Like the 3-year-old's like, whatever, Paw Patrol, like, turn the telly on, couldn't care less. But Billy is sometimes, my eldest will sometimes just be like, she'll be looking at me, she's like, why are you being such a bitch? Is essentially what she's thinking. And I know she is. And I'll just have to say, you know what, I'm not having a great day. I'm really sorry. And I've always said with the kids, like, I'm going to fuck it up. I'm going to do something wrong. I'm going to say something or lose my shit, or whatever it is. But it's the repair that counts. So if I do that, if I can go back to them and go, look, I'm really sorry. Like, I messed up. I'm not feeling great. I shouldn't have done it. Can we be mates again? She'll be like, But she gets it. And I think we do underestimate their ability to understand, I'm not going to go into detail, but they understand when I'm not having a great day. And I would rather that they heard that than walk around going, why does mummy not like me today?
I think that's really interesting, that idea of confronting your failure with them. You don't think that what apologizing is, I think apologizing is so important for apologizing to your kids, but in general as well. But what it communicates to them, I think, is that I'm not conquered by my failures.
I think for me, it's actually like that is true. Like you have to keep challenging yourself
And
when
those
you're in
tiny
recovery.
steps
Yeah,
matter.
we push ourselves out of that comfort zone, and as long as we've got the coping mechanisms, and for me, it is the exercise stuff. When I do a lot of long distance running, and when I exercise, it helps me to feel better and gives me that headspace. So I think it's that balance, isn't it?
I think it's like, I have a similar experience to you, that I kind of put on that sort of sassy gay persona that is me, but I kind of sometimes push it to the nth degree sometimes when I'm really not feeling my best. And it's like that. I think that's our own way of challenging it almost, and also saving ourselves from being hurt again.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So it is kind of...
And the reason I think that you shouldn't think about it as tiny is because its significance is it's doing the right thing. And that's everything. That's everything. It's when you decide to do those tiny steps, you are saying, I'm going to do the right thing, whether the world wants me to or not, whether I feel like it or not. I'm going to do the right thing.
But I think we have
everything.
to feel empowered to say it's not a tiny step, because I think like maybe what you were saying and what I sometimes feel is like if I have something that's unportion controlled or something that's going to a restaurant that I don't know or whatever it might be, I sometimes think it's a really small step for me to do that, because I probably shouldn't be at that point. I should be further ahead in my recovery. If that makes sense.
But I think you're on your own journey. So I think that's what the issue is as well. A lot of us focus on, comparing yourself. And again, I want to go back to your parenting style. Being authentic with your children and communicating that, I think it's amazing. Just from, firstly, your child understands that mummy does go through this, it's not just all great. And again, it's your children understanding why you've done what you've done, because if you don't communicate with your children, it's left down to interpretation. And I think even if you look back if we all look back into our own childhood, if we're not spoken to, we're just left to interpretation. So you might come in and slam the door, and I'm like, oh, she's slammed the door because she's mad at me, or this is the reason, and then blame myself, and it creates something. So I just think authenticity is what is going to change mental health just in general, and having the conversations, because it's all down to interpretation.
But it's this conversation that's important. It's the conversations that you have on social media, or that I have, or that you have with your wife, or whatever it is, or your friends, or, it's being able to say to friends, no, you know what, I'm not going to come out tonight because I'm not feeling great and I just need to look after me. It's being able to say no and not make an excuse, but to be able to say, my mental health isn't great right now, I need to stay in.
Can I ask things that you talked about, accepting where we're at and being able to be authentic and things, which is great, but what's helped people go beyond just sitting in it and being yeah, this is me, I've got depression, and that's life? You mentioned exercise, is it faith for people? Medication.
I'm not joking, meds.
Yeah.
And so many people feel such shame talking about meds, or worry about going on to meds or going to GP, they'll never come off them, or it's like a slippery slope down into the crazy train one way. And actually, meds for me were the one thing that really, really saved me.
And there's a lot of stuff at the moment of people shaming people that take it. And
I think it's sad that people do that. I'm anti-medication myself, and I have been for a few years by personal choice. But I've always been offered antidepressants from the age of 15, but I choose not to take meds. I
was trying multiple things to try and get myself out of that place and space, and the thing that got me out of it was reading a book. And I didn't turn to the book to get me out of that. There were books I did turn to, self-help books, but the book I read just basically got me out of depression and out of that headspace.
What's the book? What is this magic book thing?
No, it's not a magic book, but it was Charlemagne the God's book, Black Privilege, and don't be thrown off by the title. It doesn't matter your background, it's fine for everyone. But that book basically, all of the stuff that I was going through, it basically gave me the questions and the answers to it. And I realized that my issue was that I was being stagnant in life and I wasn't taking charge, waking up in the morning and taking control of my life. So going to work, over, if we say a decade, I've been promoted and numerous things have happened. And if I look back, I'm oh yeah, it's great. I've made progression, I've been promoted. But actually, I haven't proactively been taking charge of life and growing and doing that.
For me, where my issues with mental health kind of stemmed from the way I kind of, my sexuality basically, and kind of the way I looked at my own body and stuff like that. And I think for me now, the way that, what gets me up in the morning is the pride that I feel in the journey that I took to get to the point where I could actually look in the mirror and say that I actually like what I see.
That's awesome that you've got that like strength from within yourself. After talking and after this space, how are you feeling?
I'll go strong.
Nice.
I feel hopeful as well.
I know it really sounds really cliche when people say this, but like we're not alone in this and how we feel. And actually, the more we talk about it, actually, the better it's going to be for all of us. So yeah, I'm ready to go home and I can be on my own tonight, and I know that I'm going to be okay.
It's amazing. For me, it's awareness, only because I feel like the conversation we've had has been very linear towards anxiety and depression, and mental health, or like I guess the mental things that we go through is so much more broader.
And I think that's hopefully you will feel empowered and encouraged by just hearing us have a chat. We are so glad that you've come and you've sat with us round the round table. There are links down below if you want to look to get more help and see some topics related to mental health. It has been a real pleasure to have you with us. Thanks so much for joining.